Howdy, and welcome to Broken Tool Garage. This time, we're going to be doing a transmission fluid and filter change on this 96 F-150 with a 4R70W transmission on it. So, this right here, I'm going to say it's about a difficulty level 3. So it's pretty much the same thing as doing an oil change, but because there's not a drain plug in the transmission pan, it gets messy and is a little bit harder. So I'm going to say it's 3 gears for difficulty. So the time it took me to do this is about, we're going to say hour and a half. Just give 2 hours for after you get done and clean it up. A lot of that is just pouring fluid in and just checking it and letting the engine run and make sure you're cycling the gears and everything works properly too, right? And make sure you get it good and topped off. This case was 7 quarts, so you probably need to just get a 2-gallon jug if you can find 2-gallon jugs or 2 1-gallon jugs. You don't want to buy transmission fluid by the quart if you can keep from it, right? All right, well, let's just dive into doing this. Okay, up underneath the truck, you can see the drive shaft there, so you know that that way, right again, that way is the back of the vehicle, that way is the front of the vehicle. So to service this, I got me my initial pan right here, and I'll have to get a drain pan when we get ready to drop the pan. But I just want to show you, up above, wide angle lens, so it's capturing way more than what I want. So this is the transmission pan. Here's the pan bolts. We're going to slowly take those off and get down to about 4 bolts is what I like to do. I'm going to flip you down and give you a direct from the bottom view. So you can see the pan bolts now. So you can see those all the way around there. There's nothing really hidden on it. I'm going to start taking those off, and I'll get my big drain pan out to collect all this fluid. No real tricks to doing this unless you actually have a drain plug on it, which is nice. That's what I do on things I tend to keep. Okay, we're draining. I got the garage door open, so we got to shoot kind of from this direction. You're going to make a mess. That's just how it is. So I'm trying to capture as much as I can into this big pan here. On my transmission is 10mm socket is what I needed, and I needed an extension to get these kind of along this edge and by the catalytic converter there. The other thing I want to note is as soon as I started breaking these loose, usually these pans kind of stick, and they got to go in there with a like a paint scraper and get it in there and try to wedge it in between and slowly pop it out. This thing didn't do that. Like, as soon as I got these loose, it popped down. So this gasket wasn't sealing good, and that would explain why I had a lot of grease on this transmission. I've already cleaned this twice when I was doing other stuff to the truck, so that's why it looks as clean as it does, because I've already engine degreasered and pressure washed it and everything, right? So, yeah, now I got grease on my hand. I can't turn the camera off. But that's what we got going on. It's like I said, it's one of these things. You're under the truck, and when you get underneath it, this video is geared towards you actually doing this, not to entertain people, right? But that's what you got. If you have a drain plug, then you can drain a lot of this out, and that'd be a good thing to buy. If you're going to keep your vehicle, is get a drain plug, because once we get the pan off, we can put a plug in it. That's not a big deal. It just doesn't come with one. So what I have is the front 2 bolts are now out, and I have 2 bolts in the back that are loose. So I can take the pan, see that? Now I wanted that on this side because of the catalytic converters there, but this is just how it's going. So that's what you get to deal with. So you can just sit there and rock this a little bit, because eventually the pan is going to come down, and the least amount of fluid you have in the pan, the better, because it's less fluid you can spill on yourself whenever you get this thing out, right? But you can just sit there and do that to try to get a little bit more fluid sloshed out before you drop those final 2 bolts and drop the pan. Okay, the pan gasket's off, or the pan gasket's off. The pan is off along with the gasket, right? So this is what we're looking at. Looks like there's been silicone on this gasket, and this is the standard gasket. Looks like it bonded very well to the pan. It just didn't bond well to the transmission side of it. Now our fluid, we can look in here and see the fluid is still red. I don't see flakes in there or anything. It is a little dark, but I think that's just going to happen through time. Your transmission fluid is going to pick up contaminants and whatever, and that's what's in there. And that's why it's good to change your fluid often in your automatic transmission. Well, even in your manual transmission, because that crud can get into your gears and everything on a manual. Automatic more sensitive because it's hydraulically controlled. You have smaller passages in there. So I just watched a good video on engine oil, and there was a lot of things that went over that Andy went over. So Andy Woods at Unity Motorsports, I'll put a card up there on that. But check him out, because he just did a video on engine oils, and I think a lot of that might be pertinent to what goes on inside the transmission as well. So this doesn't look bad in here. Like I said, no metal flakes. It is dark, so it's good to get it changed. I'm not going to put a drain plug in here on this one, because this is something that I'm selling, right? And I forgot to get one. As well as my transmission mount I was going to change, and forgot to buy one. Little late at this point. So anyways, I'm just going to get this drained and cleaned, get this old gasket off, get the new gasket on. I'll show you some tips and tricks on the new gasket to get it to bond good, and it's not using RTV like what's done here. That actually might have been the leak, because it'll leak up underneath the gasket and seep out. Like right there, it could have leaked up underneath that corner there. But I'll show you a good technique to make sure it doesn't leak. Okay, now this is the filter right here when you're looking at it. Underneath, well, I'm going to spill fluid everywhere, but this is a work table, so it's okay. This is what it looks like up underneath, because this little ring right here goes up into the transmission. Make sure this O-ring comes off when you get the filter off, or else when you try to put this one with its O-ring on there, it won't work so well, right? And it just pushes up in there. There's no mounting at all. It just kind of sits up in there. So anyways, we got our new O-ring. That's the one thing to check on your filter right here when you get it. Make sure it's the same one, and then make sure that it has the O-ring on there. We're going to put a little bit of stuff on there. Let me go get it right quick. That'll help seal that up and hold that in there. So what I'm going to use just on the O-ring, just a little bit, is the driven engine assembly grease. It's kind of designed to dissolve in oils anyway. You could use, there's actually transmission specialty stuff and all that. I have that laying around, it'll work. You could probably do a little bit of axle grease. You just need a little bit around that edge, right, to get that to hold up in there and make sure you get a good seal. That's all you're doing with it. Don't use RTV or anything like that. So a grease-based substance will work just to get it to slide up in there, so you're not rolling the seal or damaging the seal when you put it in. Okay, here's something else you can get into. My pan's clean, or as clean as I'm going to make it right here. As clean as it needs to be. Make sure your surface over here is super clean, because that's what's going to allow that gasket to stick really good. Now I have this blocked up on wood to show you something. This pan doesn't need this, maybe just a little bit in here, but whenever the bolts tighten down, it can warp the pan. And what you would do for this technique to get this flat again is take a ball peen hammer and go through and tap it down. It don't take a whole lot. You don't need to be Hercules on this sucker or anything. Okay, here's the pan, got the gasket. I'm going to be using the Super 77 glue on it and just dust it lightly, dust the gasket lightly. And as soon as that tacks up, you put it on there and make sure the holes all line up and let it set and cure pretty good. It don't take long, especially if you're kind of summertime and in the sun. Just go set the whole thing out in the sun and it'll dry up pretty quick. Okay, that's all snugged down. Pan's on, we're done underneath here. Just got to get up top and add some fluid. All right, the dipstick tube is located right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put about 3 quarts in. And then what I'll do is I'll start the truck up and let the pump start sucking that fluid up and getting it throughout. See, an automatic transmission, you check it while warm. You don't check it while cold like your engine oil, right? So here we go. Quart number 1. So I got the funnel right there. Just gonna let it go in there. You see how that's nice and red? That's how the fluid's supposed to look. Got it done. It moved itself out here too. I didn't cheat and roll it down the hill and push it up here with the truck just for a video, right? So this wasn't all that bad. Got it all done. 7 quarts is when it took. Want to drive it around a little bit more. It hasn't been drove in a little while because I've been doing a lot of stuff with this truck. If you check out the playlist right up there, then you'll be able to see everything I've been doing on this truck. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time on Broken Tool Garage.